welcome in, welcome in. Sorry for the delayed stream today. Was very, very busy with the update yesterday, so I didn't get to work on example scenes until today. So for our weekly Dreamsnap tips video, I had to make everything today and put the video together as well, so very time consuming. But I did get everything done, so we are here. Just a little late, So since we streamed for so long yesterday, and we were doing update day stuff pretty much all day long, we hit max level with our avatar. We got both Hercules and Phil to max level. We finished our STARPATH. Well, you know, everything except for routine duties. I think all I have, and we did the exhibition. So I think all we have left now is Hercules and Phil's friendship quest, which I'll just kind of do whenever. I do want to get their outfits. They're pretty cool. Anyway, what we're going to do today, since we didn't get to do it yesterday, we're going to discuss Beachy Bliss results, because we do this every week. Once we get our results in, you know, we look at snaps, look at how they did, discuss the results, and we'll be combining that with what we usually do on Thursdays, which is hosting a Dreamsnap Q&A for this week's challenge. So the new video is out if you haven't seen it yet. You know, if somebody asks something that's covered in the video, I'll just recommend the video. But if it's not in the video, I'll be happy to dive into it here. Bell, thank you for the first bits of the day. Appreciate the big 200 there. Thank you, my friend. Where did you come from, buddy? Let's get that speech bubble out of here. What the heck? Oh, there it goes. Okay. Alrighty. Rope says, happy Thursday, friends. Happy Thursday, Rope. Welcome in, welcome in. Dreamer said, still sad my beach snap got 1,500. Hope my book nook does well. Well, you know, Dreamer, we talked about that. We talked about that on your initial submission and on your resubmission. You know, I told you it was gonna be a tough shot for 4K with the way it was set up at the time, but you know, you tried, you never know. You could get 4K with it, just depends on what you pop up against, but there's a lot of good snaps out there. I would be careful about being too expectant of 4K sometimes. You know, based on what else you see out there. But I did see some results that were actually very surprising. Like there's one snap in particular I want to talk about today, which really shocked me with the results. Which is rare, because usually I can justify it like, oh, you popped up against really good stuff, you know, that's usually what happens. But this snap in particular is pretty wild. Scuttle said, not feeling down about my 1,500 results at all. My snap was gorgeous to me. I love the Lisa frankness of it. I had a boatload of trouble with my characters posing/pausing that week, though. That bit I would change. Yeah, working with characters. You know, also, speaking of working with characters, if you watch my video today, the villager toggle is not working properly in a lot of spots in Storybook Vale. I haven't tested it to see if it's bugged out anywhere else, but it's a huge pain. LOTR says, we're leaning towards one or multiple characters. Mine was half Moana, half Ariel, and I noticed a lot of people that did that got low scores. I had both in my snap, but I didn't have like an Ariel theme mixed with a Moana theme. I did have a lot of Ariel items in my build. I mean, honestly, I don't think people disliked the idea of mixing Moana and Ariel. I doubt that. You know, I mean, I've seen all kinds of snaps that underperformed, you know, it just happens like all the time. LJR says, obviously, I know Facebook's not the best source, just an observation. Yeah. Divorce Cowgirl, hello. The camera functionality is broken in more than just PC FYI for Mythopia. That's too bad. Yeah, that's what I wanted to ask you guys, if anybody else was having this issue with the camera toggle. It sucks because we get, you know, a really good set of decor for Mythopia. We get a really good Dream Snap challenge for Mythopia. And the new toggle feature just doesn't work here. Very sad, very sad. Hey, thank you for the resub. Thank you. Gohan, hello. Welcome in. Gohan said, I saw that bug with villager placement and I figured out a way to counteract the bug. Turns out, also, it's only a bug that happens in Mythopia. Every other biome in Eternity House, Storybook Vale, the Bind, and Ever After works as intended. It also attaches to companions. So, how did you fix it? Stony Eyes, thank you. We got a brand new member of the supporter fam here. Stony Eyes 96 coming in with the sub. Let's go, let's go. Welcome to the supporter family, my friend. Greatly appreciate that. You guys make all the content possible. Bell said, is it possible the downtime had an effect on scores? I mean, yeah, potentially. I mean, it's possible. Like, just some people didn't get votes because there were more snaps than there were voters, you know? If you look at the numbers from Beachy Bliss, since it was the very end of the update, if you look at the numbers, there were less submissions than we almost ever see. So typically with a Dreamsnap challenge, you will get 4K as long as you rank somewhere, you know, under 7,000. Like if you're between 0 and 7,200, 7,500, you'll usually get 4K. But with Beachy Bliss, people that were in the 6,000 range were actually missing out on 4K. And that shows you that there were less submissions. And since it was the very end of the update and everybody's done with their STARPATH, it's possible people just weren't incentivized to vote. That's totally possible. So if you have, like, you know, 160,000 submissions and, like, only half of those players vote, yeah, it could cause some problems for sure. That's why I think they really, really should incentivize voting a little bit more. I think that would be an awesome thing to do. Quills. Hello. Quills, is an honor and privilege to meet you all. Welcome, Quills. Welcome. Thank you for the kind words. Senor said my vote button was missing since the Pocahontas update. It's back now, though. What the heck? Your vote button was missing? Well, that's not good. Stony Eye says you helped me a lot with your videos, so that's all I can do. Thank you for that. You're very welcome, my friend, and thank you for supporting the content. Greatly appreciate that as well. I also see Stony Eyes over on YouTube chat. Oh, you're in both at once. Let's go, let's go. Kim, hello. Willow, welcome. Miss Joe Creates, hello. Happy Thursday. Bethany said, I would like to say thank you for all your help with the Beach Snap. But even after all, you're supporting me with the second review, I ended up not submitting. I ended up... Wait, you said I ended up not submitting? But then you said you got results. Yeah, there's, you know, the best thing you can do, Bethany, is just learn and grow. Participating in the reviews and following the advice is never, ever going to guarantee you 4K, my friend. There's a lot of good snaps out there, So when it comes down to it, you know, it all comes down to your 1v1s. And if you pop up against good snaps, also like we discussed, there were some snaps out there that were really good. That got 1,500 as well. Like Belle B snap was really good. It would have got 4K because she ranked around 6,000 something. But you know, when we discuss the results, there's some interesting things to discuss for sure. Most of the people, you know, a majority of the community did well based on what I've seen. So if we look at the results here, we have a lot of snaps we reviewed that were in the 4K range. But some of them were surprising. Like, you know, I can see when a good snap gets 15. That happens from time to time. Like Clinksy here, you know, this is a beautiful snap. This got 1,500. It's well made. It's got good detail. Very magical. There's definitely snaps that are, you know, on the same level as this that also got 4K. So that's why the matchups are, you know, the 1v1s are the name of the game. But also there were some interesting things aside from that. Like for Uncle Rod here, this was really shocking, you know. This Dreamsnap right here got 600 moonstones. Now, you know, when you get 1,500, you're still... If a snap gets 1,500 moonstones, it's still in the top 20% of all snaps. You got to consider that, you know. When people are trying to learn and grow in Dreamsnaps and they're already not regularly getting 4K, and then they get disappointed when they get 1,500, like, you beat 80% of the player base. Like, you outranked 80% of the player base, yet you're looking at it in a negative way. Like, oh, I only did this good. Well, you know, when it comes to 4K, when it comes to 4,000 moonstones, you're talking about the top 4% of the player base. You're talking about some of the best snaps in the game that you have to be able to compete with. You can't get there with just, you know, if you're starting to learn and grow, it's very unlikely you're going to immediately jump to that range and stay in that range. It's competitive. So a lot of people, you know, they see gradual improvement through the reviews, and other people, they pick it up right away and they just end up writing 4K from the jump. You know, it all depends on, you know, what you pop up against and what kind of snaps you make. But this might be one of the most shocking results I've seen this week. Now, I could see this potentially getting 1,500, right? Like, you know, I don't think that... I would just assume it popped up against really good stuff if it got 1,500. But the fact that this got 600 is pretty wild. I don't think I've ever seen that happen before to like a, you know, a well-made snap. Usually the snaps that get 300 and 600 are the random selfies, the random quest photos. You know, just doing the theme usually gets you 900 to 1,200 if you just do the theme and that's it. So you're usually going to get around 900 to 1,200 moonstones if you honor the theme and put in even a tiny bit of effort. But this was a pretty good looking snap, you know. I mean, there are things that could be stronger. That's, you know, so if it got 1,500, I'd be like, well, you win some, you lose some. But 600 is a shocker for a snap like this. Now, most people didn't end up in this situation. If we look at community results, you know, through our Discord and through the Facebook post, you know, most of the snaps we reviewed did well. This one's ranked 3,000. This one's around rank 650. $2,500 for Breezy's here, which is still very good. Beautiful scene. This is around rank 1,100. And this is really pretty, but this, look how pretty this is. This only got 2,500 moonstones as well. But, you know, maybe some of the voters that came across it wanted to see a little bit more of the beachy environment. Because if you look at the top submissions, you know, like they had a lot of open sand. They still had the magical qualities, but they also had a lot of, you know, the beach environment. They had a lot of open sand. Like this one got rank 1,462. It's got a lot of open sand. That seems to be what a lot of people liked. For Black Knight here, they got rank 1,983. Alex got 4K with this submission as well. This one was a mix of Ariel and Moana. Bridget here, I believe this is Miss Spock. This one got 4K, ranked around 3,400. This snap here was in the top 1,000 from Diana. Also features a lot of that beach environment, you know. Ashley's snap here got ranked 57. Jesse's snap here, I believe this is Marie. Mad Hatter Marie, I believe. I think I remember this one. This got 4K. Joe Creates here got rank 87, top 100 submission. And this was a mix of Ariel and Stitch. Sabelina here ended up going with this submission, and they got rank 3273. This one's really cool. I didn't review this one, but I love the Ariel dive. Rank 162 here. Katina got her third 4K photo. Jin did end up doing well with the avatar, concept. Rank 1757. But yeah, there's a lot of good performing snaps here. Like, Lilo's is really pretty too, but we did mention that, you know, this one could be risky. Amanda Rose got her best rank ever, rank 34. Yo, thank you. Dang, let's go. Anonymous, thank you, thank you. Very generous dono here, 2369. We are at 2569 on the board now. Thank you, thank you. That is very kind of you, my friend. I do have a partial goal today because I went live very late and it won't be the same length of a stream that it usually is. So goal is down to 4,000 today. We're already well over halfway now. Less than 1,500 bits away. Very nice, very nice. So nice says the aerial diving was mine. Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, I love what you did with that. That's awesome, that's awesome. And if you ever want to submit your snaps for review as well, so nice, since you are a supporter, whether you're a YouTube channel member or a Twitch supporter, you can participate in our snap reviews if you want to. Totally optional, of course. But yeah, I love what you did here. The action shot of Ariel is just so nice. And the glowing algae here just gives it such a good magical vibe. Got great lighting. I'm glad this got what it deserved. It was a beautiful snap. But for the most part, the results we're seeing really track. You know, like for the most part, things make sense. But still, you know, it is very shocking that a snap like this got 600 moonstones. Now, could things be better here? Absolutely, absolutely, which is why, you know, if this got 1,500, I wouldn't be like, how did that happen? How in the world? Because there's good snaps you can pop up against. A lot of the snaps we see doing very well this week. Ginger Snap, thank you for the resub. Notice the, you know, a lot of these snaps that are performing have really good lighting, really good color. Like, look at how vibrant the colors are. Really good levels of saturation. You know, the greens are extra vibrant. That's not the case for all of them, but it is the case for a lot of them. You get a lot of beautiful color, a lot of vibrancy. Voters really tend to gravitate towards these types of photos, which is why I'm always talking about lighting and vibrancy and saturation and why they work so well, because they draw the attention of the voter, right? Like a lot of these photos you're seeing right now that were in that 4K range, they have these very bright, vibrant colors. And for Ronald's that got 600, you know, the colors are definitely a lot darker. So a bit more saturation here, I think, would have been helpful. But still, it doesn't justify 600. That's pretty wild. Honestly, it might just come down to the fact that this is one of those unlucky times where there were just not enough voters for everybody. And some people really paid the price for that. Which is why I think it would be a good idea for Gameloft to find an additional way to incentivize voting. I do think the unlimited skips is a great direction, because it empowers people to really seek out snaps that put in time and effort much easier. And you can cycle through snaps like so much faster now. And, you know, if you're somebody that wants to vote for people that are putting in a good bit of effort into the challenge, or at least a good bit of thought, it doesn't even have to be time and effort, just thought. Like people that went out of their way to include villagers, people that, you know, used several different items when constructing their scene, people that have good lighting, good color. You know, if you want to seek those dream snaps out for your votes, then it's a lot easier now, which is great. And I'm hoping that will help to balance things a bit more in dream snaps. Time will tell, time will tell. But yeah, a lot of good submissions here. Bria Lopez with rank 277. Now, this player here said 1,500 moonstones, rank 16,623. I watch your videos, I take suggestions, I try my best. I don't think I've ever reviewed this person's snaps, though. I used to get 4K streaks for months, and now I'm over the moon just to get 1,500. I don't understand what I'm doing wrong. Well, there's a couple of things with this one. First, it looks like the avatar has, like, a little bit of a soul patch there. I'm not sure what's going on there. Might be the lighting. And it's a pretty scene. But boosting character lighting here would have been really good, so the avatar stood out a little bit more. The outfit is good, but also playing so close to the water can be tough because you're not going to be able to have as much decor in the environment. They got some good magical items, but I feel like if they'd used a magical house here, that would have been a bit better than the Bayou house. 1,500, I think, is pretty fair for this. I think it's pretty fair. Again, 1,500 is top 20%.
Notice me, senpai.
It's not bad.
Notice me.
It's not bad. Yo, Beagle, thank you for the 500. Much appreciated, much appreciated. But, you know, when you look at the snaps that are getting, you know, so where is that snap I was just looking at? So, you know, this snap here gets 1,500, and they're wondering what they could do differently to be in the 4K range. But as we discussed, you know, if we look at these snaps in the 4K range, if we look at a lot of these snaps that are in that range, you'll see very vibrant color, you'll see very good lighting, and you'll often see a bit more depth of field and a bit more villager presence. So there's a lot of things that can make a snap stand out in voting. Now, I don't think I've ever reviewed that person's snaps. They're probably just watching my video guides. But at the end of the day, how you incorporate the advice is what's going to really be the determining factor in how you perform. Like Chloe here did very well with this one. And for the example scene that I showed for Beachy Bliss, I can tell that the person that got 1,500, this one here, I can tell that, you know, they followed some of the advice, like making things magical, like they do have, like a little bit of magical qualities here. And they have a little bit of an aurora and a little bit of fireflies here. But it's how you use that advice. It's how you apply it that's ultimately going to determine how you do, you know, and what you match up against, what kind of photos you match up against. So they have the aurora here, but you can hardly see it. Combined with the sunset, the aurora is not going to be as potent. Same with the fireflies. And then, as we discussed often, you know, the avatar beauty is very important. Getting that beauty factor of your avatar. So whatever's going on with the chin here, I think, kind of brings down the avatar beauty a little bit. And I'm not sure. It almost looks like the same 5 o'clock shadow I have on my male avatar. Character lighting is something I think they will need to learn. When it comes to the advice I give every time I talk about capturing a sunset in the back of your scene, I always talk about making sure you utilize character lighting when you do that, and they didn't do that here. So there's definitely some portions of my advice I think they're leaving out. I also gave some recommendations for good magical houses to use for this, and good beach houses. And some of them were villager houses they could have used. So I think 1,500 is pretty fair for this. I mean, it could have done better. It could have gotten 4K if it popped up against the right stuff, but it's gonna be hard to be competitive without better lighting, without better color, and without making the theme even more clear and obvious. Not a bad snap, though. You know, still top 20%. Mama Duke's here, got ranked 952. Very nice, very nice. Top 1,000 submission here. The Amanda Rose got her best rank ever at rank 34. I think somebody was trying to comment on it, and they messaged me. But yeah, when you look at the snaps that tend to perform very well, they are very vivid. They have lots of beautiful color, well-lit characters, and a diverse environment. They also usually have some kind of wow factor, either with a villager animation, with their pose. These things can help set you apart from other Dream Snaps. Like, you know, Holly's snap here got rank 620. Look at how creative the pose is, right? They did a bit of storytelling with their snap. And not only did they include a good pose for the avatar, they also had Pua, they had the turtles. There's a turtle here. There's multiple turtles on the little habitat back here. Hey, thank you, Beagle Mama. Much appreciated. And then we have Ariel here. We have Moana here. We have Stitch here. So we have 3 beachy villagers, several beachy companions, and great decor. You know, they use the starfish. They have the little sorcerer crab. We got the little shell here, oyster here. So look at how diverse the core is. And look at the depth of field we have here. You know, we can see into the scene very well. A lot of things that make this Dream Snap very competitive. And when you're not aiming your camera towards the sun, look at how pronounced that aurora is. I'm not saying you can't use the aurora with the sunset, but the way you angle it and the direction in which you take your photo is going to be important. Sunset shots are a lot trickier. If you want a sunset shot to get 4K, we review them all the time, and they definitely can get 4K, but look at how she boosted the character lighting here, right? That's number one. So this snap got 4K, and they have a sunset. They have the aurora, but look at how they angled the aurora. It takes up a lot more of the photo in this one. And then they boosted their character lighting to make the avatar stand out. But sunset shots can be a lot trickier. If you're struggling to stay in 4K or obtain 4K often, that's why I often recommend having the sun behind the camera and using it to light your scene, because that just resonates well with voters. Now, if you're somebody that's been doing Dream Snaps for a while and you have a lot of talent for Dream Snaps, you don't have to have the sun behind the camera. Like Beyblade's a very talented player. The sun is off to the right. But notice how they boosted their character lighting to make sure the character is still very visible. Same with Ariel, same with Stitch. So great visibility on the characters. And we still get very nice, vibrant colors, even with the sun off to the right. But yeah, the only Dream Snap I've seen that I think was very surprising was Ronald's. Like I said, for Ronald's snap to get 600, it would have to have like the worst luck. I could see 1500 happening because there's a lot of good snaps out there. But the only way I could see this getting 600 while there were enough voters would be almost every time you popped up against something really good, which I feel like the odds of that happening are so small. You're bound to pop up against some stuff you can beat. But the way the algorithm seems to work is that, later in the week, you'll see good snaps versus good snaps very consistently. Like when you vote on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, you'll start to see really good snaps against really good snaps. And the reason that is because as snaps get more votes, they're more likely to be matched up against snaps that are getting more votes. And that's ultimately how they determine who stays in 4K and who goes. Now, if right out of the gate, like on day one of the challenge, you just have the unfortunate luck of popping up against something really good and you don't get votes in the earlier part of the challenge, that could potentially give you a harder time, climbing out of the 300 to 600 range. But still pretty wild that this got 600. This is the first time I've seen a snap that, you know, I can't really... There's no way for me to really justify 600 for this. Are there things that could be done better here? For sure, you know. I do think, you know, more saturation would have been really good here. You know, getting the colors a bit more bold. But they did very well with the build. They have lots of good detail. They featured the avatar well. I typically like to have a little bit more space between my avatar and the top of the frame. So, if you look in my submissions here, I always have a little bit of space between the top of my head or my hat and the top of the photo, unless I'm splitting a shot down the middle, and that's the divide. But yeah, pretty much everything else, I don't get that close. You want to get close to the avatar because you want us to see their beauty, but I would be careful getting too close because I do see sometimes snaps tend to underperform when the avatar is, you know, really close. But even that is not really enough to justify 600. And even the lowered saturation isn't really enough to justify 600. It's pretty wild, pretty wild. Big Mama said, yeah, 600 for that is truly ridiculous. I agree, I agree. Bop Pop said 5. Yeah, that's what I was curious about. Like, I don't know that that Dreamsnap that said they got 1500. That avatar really looked like it had, like, you know, a bit of a beard for some reason. I'm not sure what was going on there. Sabsy said, could it be that there isn't a lot of water? I did find I didn't have water in mine. There's no water here. 4K. We don't see any water here. Rank 650. Another 4K submission, no water. So there's actually a lot of Dreamsnaps that didn't show any water that got 4K. This one does have a tiny bit of water there. Miss Spock here. Another 4K, no water. Now, potentially it's still... That doesn't mean the answer is no. It is totally possible that, like, maybe some of the voters they got felt like water was necessary. But what we can see on average is, you know, there's plenty of Dreamsnaps in the 4K range that didn't show water, that did just fine. So unless you get really unlucky with your voters, you know, I don't really think that's the case. That's really fun. Oh, good. This one did well. Ranked 3,537. I'm glad the beach party scene did well. Dree GG. Dree didn't have water in hers. We can see Ariel's castle back here, though. But this got ranked 801. So, yeah, I don't think you really had to have water in your scene. You know, there's so many snaps in 4K that aren't showing water. But what we do see in most of these 4K snaps is a lot of color. They've got, you know, there's a lot of snaps here that have heightened saturation. That's why I always talk about vibrancy. It really helps you stand out during the voting phase. You don't always have to have it, you know. You don't always have to have a ton of vibrancy in your scenes. But it is good. We do see a lot of, you know, a lot of snaps, especially in the top 1,000, that are just Very vibrant, very well lit, lots of color. So this one's got a lot of good saturation, top 1000 submission here. And, you know, mine was right around 1000. And you know, lots of color. That too, Frozen Flamingo. There's always going to be a lot of good snaps, you know. Which is why when you get 1,500 Moonstones, you know, I wouldn't be too hard on yourself. It feels like you're really far away from 4K because it's less than half the reward. And I think that's why people tend to beat themselves up when they get 1,500 Moonstones. They feel like they really, really failed. But if you're getting 1,500, you're not that far away from 4K. Like, you missed it by a little, you know. Like 2,500, even closer. You're right on the cusp of 4K. And there's going to be really good snaps every week, you know. Every week there will be some really solid snaps out there. Graceful Lion said, hey, Sam, I got 4K on Beachy Bliss. Just wanted to ask. I do want to do a Hercules/Greek mythology snap this week, but I don't have Storybook Veil yet. I only have Eternity Island base game. What floating island do you suggest to build it in? You know what's the neat part about that, Graceful Lion? The neat part about that is whichever one you want. Because when you build a Dreamsnap on a floating island, you can hide whatever the natural environment is. So let me explain what I mean. This snap right here, this autumn snap, this is not even built in the bind. This is in the Glade of Trust. But you can't tell. There's nothing here to show that. We're using Leaf Strewn Path to cover the entire ground. And then, you know, we have trees and houses blocking the backdrop. So, when it comes to building a Greek mythology snap on a floating island, if you pave it with this golden opal road and you put big buildings in the back, and we can't see the trees on the edge of the island, it won't matter what island you're on, you know? It won't make a difference. And that's probably what I'm going to do this week. I'm most likely going to go to a floating island. I'm not going to use Mythopia because the toggle is broken here. I can't toggle villagers properly here. Now, I did see that, go ahead and mention, they found like a little fix for it. It seems like the villagers only want to move or even appear when next to a tree. But in the bind and ever after, it works like intended. I haven't tried out the other biomes. So you have to have them next to a tree? That's bizarre. Let me see. Let me see your clip here. Unfortunately, I don't think that's going to be much of a fix. Because I'm just going to go to floating island because I don't want to have a bunch of trees in my snap. It might not even have to be trees. It might just be like any... Like, you know, certain types of decor. But I'll probably just do... I will probably just do a floating island for mine, to be honest. I do love the idea of having, you know, Mount Olympus in the background. But I think since it's so far away and it's just a tiny background item, I feel like getting the villagers exactly where I want them and getting them posing exactly like I want them, I think is a bit more important. So I will likely take that route personally this week. Ginger said, I'm currently watching the video, so I wanted to give a helpful tip for anyone making their Dreamsnap Mythopia. They stick to pets, so if you freeze a pet, choose where you want the villager to be. That's where they'll go for your placement. Yeah, they'll stick to trees too, Ginger Snap. I'm just not going to use Mythopia, though. I don't want to go through all that extra trouble. The whole benefit of the new toggle is that, you know... The whole benefit of the new toggle is that you can just put them right where you want them and save time. So I'm not going to worry about freezing pets and pushing pets around and like... I'm just not going to use Mythopia. Because you can make... I can make this exact same build in any floating island and it would look exactly the same. You just wouldn't have Mythopia in the back. And instead of Mythopia in the background, I can just use Hercules' house because it's so tall. I can use other buildings in the back. So I'll probably just do that instead. Because that way I can use the toggles exactly like I want. Freezing companions is kind of an annoying thing to do, Wishing Stardust. It's like, I don't know if you can do it on controller, but if you pet them on keyboard and then immediately spam your furniture mode button by pressing the F key, you'll enter furniture mode and then they'll stay there. So if I were to pet this little guy and then spam F, now he's just going to stay there. But if I open my camera, he will move. But if he were attached to a companion house instead of me, even when I open my camera, he will stay there. So if I go up and pet them and then spam F on my keyboard and open furniture menu, and they're attached to companion house, they'll stay there. But I don't really like using that. I feel like it's not fair to, like, you know, heavily utilize things that require a keyboard, because it just... Anybody that's not on PC with a keyboard can't do that. And I'm not a big fan of utilizing... That's why I like tricks like this, because we can all do it. You know, like the seating tricks, we can all do this. You know, controller, it doesn't matter. Whatever you're playing on, anybody can get the camera low. Anybody can push the camera forward. But I don't really mess with the freezing companions much, because I just don't like having, you know... Oh, dude, the headpiece is so pretty. D-da-da. The way it sparkles, it's so nice. That said, if you have mouse and key and you want to freeze your companions, by all means, by all means. But one of the things I try to keep in mind is that since I make a lot of content to help people with Dreamsnaps, I want to show that you can perform well in Dreamsnaps regardless of whether or not you have access to a keyboard or whether you can freeze companions. It's not something you absolutely have to do. Turn the camera and place them from behind. I'm just not gonna worry about it, guys. Like, I do not want to like have to fiddle with this new camera toggle. I'm just not gonna build here for my Dreamsnap. And you won't even be able to tell what floating island I'm on anyway. So, you know, there's workarounds with, like, pets. There's workarounds with trees. You can move it around. But I'm just not even going to bother with it. When it comes to using villagers this week, I want to use the villager toggle as intended. I'm too excited. I'm too excited about the new feature to have to, like, deal with it bugging out. Does that make sense? Like, I don't want to deal with the new toggle being buggy. I just want to have fun with it. So that's what I'm going to do this week. That's what I'm going to do. Personal says, I got 600 and I use all the tropical things. I think I'm missing stuff when it comes to dream snaps, like all the tips others use, like the light that got changed in the update. Are you talking about the red hanging lantern personal? I don't really think that has anything to do with, you know, like your average dream snap performance, my friend, because, like, I'm not using the red hanging lanterns here, here, in any of these. The only dream snap I used the red hanging lanterns in the past, like, 4 months was my bind build, just because it looks pretty with autumn color. If you want personal, you can always DM me your snap and I can take a peek at it. Do you think a snap that isn't Greek themed is going to be as popular with voters? As long as it communicates the theme and it's a well-made, beautiful snap, absolutely. Absolutely. I will say voters do tend to really enjoy seeing the new characters and the new items, like whenever we do get a new update, because we've never seen this stuff in a snap before. So they're popular. You know, like, a lot of that stuff is just popular. But when it comes to other snaps being able to succeed, I think they absolutely can. And yeah, personal, if you want to DM it to me on Discord, just join the server, and you can find me under announcements. You'll have to send me a message first before you can attach an image. But if you send me a message on Discord and just say hello, then you can get a chat window, and you can just add your dream snap to it. I'll take a peek at it. We'll see what you can do differently. But I will say, you know, we did see another snap that got 600 that definitely deserved a lot better than that. And I think for last week, and this won't be a problem this week because it's a new update. There's going to be more players, and the StarPath makes people vote twice. There's two portions of the StarPath that require people to vote, so there will be more voting going on than normal this week. So I think this week we'll see more submissions than normal. We'll see more voting than normal, which is good. It's healthy for Dream Snaps. I think one of the main things they need to do is find a way to incentivize more voting. But yeah, the fact that this got 600 moonstones is pretty wild. Because they did everything very well. And who knows, you may be in the same boat, you know? Like I said, I think one of the things that could have happened here is that we already know there were less submissions than normal this week. Usually, if you rank right at 7,000, you still get 4K. But this week, people that were in the 6,000 range didn't get 4K. They got 2,500. So the cutoff was somewhere in 6,000, which means there were far less snaps submitted than normal. And that's because it was the back end of an update, and not as many people are playing on the back end of an update. If anything, that's actually the hardest time to get 4K, because there's less voters, there's less players. And potentially what could have happened to Ronald here is that there just weren't enough voters for everybody. That's possible, you know? The incentive for voting is only 50 moonstones, where the bare minimum you get for submitting is 300. And submitting takes, like, very little time. It actually takes less time to submit a random selfie than it does to vote on 10 snaps. So, if you think about it, if less than a third of the people that submit bother voting, how in the world will there be enough votes for everybody, you know? Now, I don't think this is usually a problem. I'll be honest. I don't think this is something that happens every challenge, because we rarely see this. We rarely see good snaps getting less than 15 to 1,200. So, and I don't think it'll be a problem this week because, you know, now we got the new, StarPath, we got the new update. There's going to be more players. Should be a bit busier. Dovey Bird says, I hit 900 this week after doing a snap I thought was my best snap I've ever made. How would you recommend not getting discouraged? That's a good question. That's a good question, Dovey Bird. I think the important thing is to always remember with Dream Snaps, it's about having fun. And I know when you make what you believe is your best work and it underperforms, it feels bad, right? It feels bad. Because you automatically assume people just didn't like it. That's the first thought that pops in most people's heads. Is, man, I thought this was my best snap and people didn't like it. Like, am I just bad at this? But what you have to remember when it comes to those thoughts is just because your snap didn't win its votes, its 1v1s, it doesn't mean people didn't like it. They could have really liked it, for all you know, right? Because I can't tell you how many times I've had 2 really beautiful snaps pop up during voting against each other. And I loved both of them. I would love to give a vote to both of them, but I can't. I have to pick one or the other. So even when you underperform and you don't get the results you were hoping for, it doesn't necessarily mean people disliked your snap or that it was a bad snap. And also, Beachy Bliss, as we stated, there's plenty of snaps out there that you can see that certainly deserved better than what they got. Like, you know, this is... I've never seen a snap like this get 600. I don't think I've ever seen that. I think this might be... And I've been doing Dream Snaps since the very beginning. So, I could see 1,500. 1,200 would be a stretch, but it could happen. But 600? That's wild. That's wild. Especially considering it's not that different from what we see in 4K. You know? It's not that different. But on the bright side, we're done with that week. Like I said, the last week of an update, like that was the last week of the... That was our final week of the Pocahontas update. That's when Dreamlight Valley is the slowest. That's when there's the lowest number of voters. There's the lowest number of submissions. People are playing other games because they've accomplished everything the update has. The StarPath isn't even active for the last week. So even if you're not done with it, you can't work on it anymore. So there's no StarPath to do. There's no new character because you likely already have them. You're probably done with their quests. So a lot of players tend to take a little bit of a break near the end of the update. And because of that, the very last week of the update, potentially there might just not be enough voters, you know? It's possible. So I would be cautious of that as well. And the best week to do Dream Snaps, the week where you're likely to see the most performance, the week where the 4K range is going to be at its largest, is the week of an update. Because the StarPath itself has a duty that requires people to submit a Dream Snap. So people that would never even bother in the first place, well, now they're going to submit one just for the StarPath. And the StarPath requires people to vote. So there's more voting. There's more submissions. So the best week to get 4K would be these update release weeks. And the following week. Then after about 3 to 4 weeks, it starts to taper off. And it gets a little slow again. But you know, if you see tough performance at the end of an update. Don't beat yourself up, you know. It doesn't mean you made a bad snap. And try not to get discouraged. Remember, you were proud of it, right? You were proud of your snap. And that's a win. That's a win. It doesn't matter what the game gives you. It doesn't matter what kind of moonstones you get. It doesn't matter what rank you get. You were given a theme, and you made something you were proud of. This is why I love to save my snaps. Like, I have a snaps folder, because this is what it's all about to me. You know, I love looking through this portfolio because these are things I would probably never bother making myself. Like, some themes are so specific and random that I would never build that. I would never build some of these things. But the challenges make me build them. And then I look back on it, I'm like, man, that turned out so cool. I would rather have a lot of these photos than the moonstones or the rank. Like, if I had to choose, you know, if somebody was like, refund all your moonstones or delete all your photos, I would choose to keep my photos. Because I'm proud of them. And I enjoyed making them. Now, would it suck to have to, like, lose all those moonstones and buy a whole bunch of moonstones? Yeah, for sure. I would not be very excited about that. But it would be worth it to me, honestly. Like, I just love looking back through these. And it's fun what we can do in this game. So, don't get discouraged. Focus on having fun. And remember the toughest weeks most of the time in Dreamsnaps. And I've been doing Dreamsnaps since the very first one. The toughest weeks are always the ones at the end of the update. It's always been that way. So just do not be too hard on yourself, my friend. You are not alone in that. You are not alone in that. There's a lot of people that, you know, just got unfortunate results. And that's most common around that time. You know, most common around that time. So, let me see if our other friend sent that in. Theodos said, I recommend to everyone to make a Dreamsnaps folder on their PC just to see the snaps you've done. It's so fun to look back on them. I agree. I love saving my snaps. Ron said that's exactly what I started doing. When I started watching Senpai, I had to dig through my PC to find some of my old snaps when the game first came out, and Lord, they're bad. LOL. It's nice to see the growth I've had since watching Senpai. Skull said that's where I'm at. I do allow myself one day to wallow in bad results. Yeah, because, I mean, it does suck. I mean, I've had snaps that I really, really loved that did not perform as well as I'd hoped. You know, on average, I tend to do great at snaps, but sometimes I do something a little outside the box, and I'm like, man, this might be my best snap ever, and then it just doesn't perform as well as my regular snaps do, and I'm just like, well, it is what it is, but I'm still proud of it, you know, and I'm happy about it, but then I'm just even more fired up for the next challenge, right? I'm like, all right, redemption arc, you know, it's time for the redemption arc. Let's see what I can do better. W said I might start saving my snaps. I've only had a Discord server to look through some of my old ones. Yeah, I definitely recommend it. Yeah, Vortex, if people use Dreamer's Portal, that's a good way to keep up with them as well. Now, let me see if I got... Oh, I didn't get a message request yet. Okay. All right. Well, overall, you know, the results from Beachy Bliss were as expected, with a handful of, I think, unfortunate circumstances for some players. But again, you know, after looking through the results from Beachy Bliss, like if we look at my Facebook, and by the way, guys, if you're not following me on Facebook, every Wednesday, I actually made this post today because Wednesday was update day, but every Wednesday, I share my Dreamsnap after voting closes. I don't put my Dreamsnaps on social media or pretty much anywhere until voting is done. And then everybody shares their results as well. So if you want to be part of this, you can follow me on Facebook, same name, probably Senpai. And we always discuss everybody's results. So if you want to be part of the convo and share your results and have them shared on stream, you know, we talk about them all the time. But yeah, most of what we see, Gabrielle here said, this is my Beachy Bliss Snap, largely influenced by your videos, and specifically your live stream discussing improvements and reviews. I didn't get a review, but I did take the helpful hints. 4K, ranked 263. All that's left is for someone to buy me a plane ticket somewhere beachy. For now, I'll be here in Canada. Yeah, very nice. Beautiful snap here. Gorgeous, gorgeous. Denise here got 4,000 moonstones, ranked around 650. Been using your tips, and this is my highest rank I've ever got. Thank you for all your tips and tricks, as well as your videos posted on YouTube. Nice, that's awesome. Very magical. Great scene, great scene. Breezy got 2,500. This definitely could have gotten 4K. This is really pretty. They just said it was tough competition. They were hoping for 4K. But yeah, beautiful snap. It's tough to stay in the 4K range these days. Courtney's on a 7-week streak. When I started Dreamsnaps earlier this year, I wasn't sure if I could ever get 4K. Your videos have been so helpful this journey, and now Dreamsnaps are my favorite part of the game, so thank you. Yeah, I really did like this one. And you know, this is what we were talking about when we were talking about sunsets. Sunsets are more technical, but they can be really good. The trick is when you capture a picture of the sunset, you really need to boost your character lighting so you have good light on your avatar and on your villager. And you know, they have a good presence of fireflies, and they have great saturation here. You got a very nice deep blue on the sky here, very nice purple here. Yeah, their sky was really pretty. Gab said, thank you. Of course, of course. Frozen Flamingo said, I recently made a folder on my phone for snaps that got 4K. It helps me see what I've done well in the past. I would save all of them, you know. I like to review. You know, a lot of people in the community, when they don't get 4K, they'll want me to take a look at their snap, and they'll ask, you know, what they could have done differently or what they could have done to be more competitive. Sometimes there's not much, you know. Sometimes it's already a very strong snap. They just popped up against some really good competition. Other times there are some things we can look at and say this could potentially make it more of a competitive snap. Like, you know, for this scene here, right? I feel like if I didn't have the firefly presence and the rainbows and the bubbles and then Max as well, like on the path to fill it out a bit with like Stitch on the bench, then this could have had a much harder time getting 4K. You know, there's a lot of things I did to make this more competitive. Like with the motif in the top corner here, we have two motifs up here. There's the sunlight motif, and then also the Peter Pan pirate ship that's been expanded and pushed out of the frame just so the sparkly circle shows. There's all kinds of neat things you can do with the motifs. Sonny says I'm going off. Good night from the Netherlands. Good night, my friend. Good night. LOTR says I'm also curious to what you think I could have done differently. Do you want to send me your snap in a DM real quick? I'll take a peek at it. Just keep in mind for this week, there's going to be, you know, a chance that there just weren't enough voters because we've seen that with that 600 they got. Timberland said, hey, I think I missed the review of my snap. I haven't done snap reviews this week. Do you mean we reviewed everybody that submitted for, yeah, we did all the reviews that came in for, Forested Book Nook. Well, the Facebook comments aren't reviews. It's just a discussion. We're just discussing results for these. So, you know, it says right here, we'll be discussing the snap/results shared here on today's stream. So I'm not sure if they're referring to that. But yeah, this wouldn't be a snap review. We're just talking about the overall vibe of the snaps and how they performed. You know, what did really well, what fell short. Linda said, after listening to this, makes me feel like I just got lucky this week and I haven't grown at all in snaps. I mean, there was more unlucky this week than there was lucky. So I don't know about that. I don't know how you could take that from what we said. Scuttle deemed you as well. Okay. So we have LOTRs. Oh yeah, this one was really pretty. Yeah, you got a great pose with the wind here. Max would have been really nice to bring in. One thing you can do with Max, he won't attach to Ariel, but you can attach him to Eric. And then you can hide Eric, and Max will walk around the area where Eric was. So on the Ariel side, I think Max is so cute. Voters love seeing him. So I think having Max would have been great for this. And on the Moana side, since you have Moana, you do have a nice open path here. I think having Maui here as well would have been impressive. I think potentially we could have rotated this Aurora to cross over more of the sky. Hey, thank you, my friend. And then I can see the gold sparkle from the pirate ship here. I like the sun motif, but when we have sun hitting the front, I usually like to put it in the corner. Just because we can see I mean, it's not a big deal, but I do typically like this motif more in the corner, unless there's a big reason I want to showcase it. But yeah, this snap could have gotten 4K. There's two reasons it could have fell short. Number one, it could have popped up against better snaps, right? Like it could have popped up against snaps that beat it. Staying in that 4K range can be tough sometimes because there are really good snaps out there. And number two, it could have gotten 1,500 just because there weren't a lot of votes to go around this week, it seems. You know, we see that with Ronald's 600 Moonstone results. A lot of the snaps that deserve 4K did get 4K. But there are plenty that definitely could have gotten 4K that fell short, like this one. This definitely could have gotten 4K. But as far as what you could have done to make this even more competitive, I do think Max would be great because he's very large. He has a great presence, you know, a lot more noticeable than the turtle. And since you have Ariel, Max could be really cute there. And since you have Moana, you have this nice open path here. I think having Maui here could have been really good. And rotating the Aurora to cover across more of the sky could be nice. Now, I don't think you have fireflies. You'll notice a lot of the snaps in that 4K range, they were taking advantage of fireflies. There's a lot of them in there. They're very beautiful items. If you don't have fireflies, you can always add beautiful sparkles to your scene with fireworks. And you don't need premium items to use fireworks either. We see a nice presence of fireflies here. We see them here. But if you don't have them, when you get Mushu to level 2, he gives you a fireworks set that you can trigger with the camera. And you don't need to go crazy with it. You don't even need it to look like a firework. If you let it fizzle out, it just looks like magical sparkles, right? It doesn't have to be used necessarily as a firework. I have them pretty heavy here, but this is kind of what I mean, where you get these little blips of color. I wouldn't go this heavy, but this can be a great way to add some beautiful magic to your skyline. And these are the Mushu fireworks. These are non-premium. Anybody can get these. So if you don't have fireflies, these could always be a great way to be competitive against photos that do have them. So if you don't have all these little glowing orbs and you want to add more beautiful color to your sky, could be a good option. But yeah, overall, LOTR, it was a solid snap. It was a solid snap. It definitely had the potential for 4K. Hard to say what you popped up against, or if it was just that you didn't have, you know, the end of the update. That's usually the toughest week for 4K. The very end of the update, there's just less players, less voters. Who's Queenel Barry Volo? Is that the friend on YouTube that wanted me to look at their snap? Would that be Dovey Bird by chance? Catterday Girl said, I don't have fireflies. I use fireworks in my desert snap. Yeah, great idea. They're a great substitute. They really are. You don't have to have the fireflies to get that magical sparkle effect. You really don't. I love using fireworks for that. You know, and the Mushu one looks great. So if you don't have the premium fireworks, the Mushu ones are a little trickier to use because of how they arch, but they're great for adding like a really beautiful effect to your skyline. And we've seen time and time again, voters just tend to really love those like nice sparkly effects. Linus had just meant it as in lucky due to matchups. Loving our own snaps. Still building some confidence. Gotcha, Linda. Gotcha. Personal said it's mine. Okay, gotcha. Well, in this one, personal... So it's hard for me to, you know, really judge a photo of a screen because I can't really get the lighting. So what you'll want to do if you want to share your Dreamsnap, you can save it with a QR code, save it on your phone, and then upload it that way. But when it comes to getting 4K, you need to build your snap in a way to where you can, if you want to get 4,000 moonstones, you got to beat 96% of players. All right? Just think about that. If there are 100 people standing in front of you and you get 4K, only 3 of those other people get 4K. That's how many people you have to beat. So with a snap like this, yo, Wings of a Daydream. Thank you, my friend. We got a brand new member of the supporter fam. Let's go, let's go. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So there's a few things here, right? You are going to want to do a bit more work if you want to get 4K. If you want to get a better rank, you got to put in better rank levels of effort, right? So if we look at this snap and we look at what did get 4K, we'll notice a very big difference. So there's a lot of things you could be doing better here. A lot of things. I would have to, because the snap, it's incomplete. So you're using the surfing animation, but you're using it in grass. So when you pose for your photo, it's a great opportunity to show the voter that you're putting in extra effort. But if you just strike a pose and you don't consider how that pose works with the environment, it's not going to do anything for you. Like the grass is coming through the surfboard, you're kind of standing on a surfboard in the grass, like with the surfing stance. Why not do this in the water, like where people surf, you know? But the pose here is not really going to work. The other thing is you didn't do anything with the bottom half of this photo. So you have a house here, and you have a couple of trees and a couple of items, and that's it. A snap like this can be built in like 2 minutes, 2 minutes flat. I would recommend putting a bit more time and thought into your snap if you want to do better. So let's look at, let's kind of cross compare here. And this is not to tear you down, by the way. I'm just trying to put things in perspective for you because you can't really expect 4K with a snap like that. And you really want to take a look at what people are doing that are getting 4K. So let's like cross compare a couple of snaps here. We'll just grab the first 4K one we have here. I think this is Beagle Mama's. So we have Beagle Mama's snap here. Notice how in Beagle Mama's snap, they've got their avatar presented really well. The pose makes sense, right? She's not using a surfboard in the grass. She's standing in front of a fire with her arms out, enjoying the beautiful sunny weather on the beach. They took the time to bring in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different villagers. They decorated the entire scene. So notice how in this photo here, there's nothing in the bottom half of this photo. It's Stitch, you, and emptiness. This player, on the other hand, in the corner down here, they have a glowing fern. They dropped a sorcerer crab from their pocket. They have a guitar here. They have a chair here, lunchbox here, snail here, another fern on this side, a clam here, a luminescent tree here, the Ariel bench here, an RV, a volleyball playing area, palm trees, another glowing tree, more palm trees, Moana's house, the tiki house, and then we can see glowing algae in the water. They put in 4K effort, right? They put in a lot of effort for this snap. I'm going to pull up my dream snaps for you real quick, and we're going to look at, you know, different submissions. You don't have to have all the same items I have here to decorate your snap. You don't have to decorate with the same items. But when you submit a Dreamsnap, you want to show the voter that you put time and effort into it. If you're showcasing just a small build in the back, that's not really going to impress the voter. And if you pop up against anything that does have time and effort, it's going to be nearly impossible to win the vote against them. When it comes to performing well in Dreamsnaps, it's a competition, you know? You're up against real people. You're up against real players that are very creative with how they design the environment, how they build their scene. Another thing to consider is the challenge description. Beachy Bliss told us to design a magical beach. Now, you have fairy wings. That's kind of magical. But there's not anything magical about your beach. It's just a regular beach. We got palm trees. There's some surfboards. There's a veggie truck and a coconut tree and an ice cream stand. All very normal, everyday things. Now, when it comes to making something magical, if that, the biggest part of doing well in Dreamsnaps, the most important thing is the theme. What the theme says. And we'll cover that every week in my YouTube guides about each theme. But Beachy Bliss stated, create a magical beach scene. So when we look, that's why we're using glowing ferns. And we have these glowing palm trees. And there's a lot of ways to make it magical. It doesn't have to be glowing items. You can have Ariel in her mermaid form. You can show Ariel's castle. There's so many different ways to approach it, but it does need to be magical. So if you see a beach theme and you're not looking at the keywords in the description and you just go to your beach and you just take a photo, it's not going to be enough to perform well in snaps. The other thing is, in every photo, you want something in your foreground. That's at the bottom of your scene. So notice how at the bottom of my scene here, we have tropical plants, we have coral, we have beach grass. We look on the other side, coral, tropical leaves, beach grass. Same thing here. Look at the bottom left. We have pixie dust. We have this V8 item. And we have the Sense of Self lamp. Over here, we have the, I think I said bottom left, that was bottom right. Bottom left over here, we have the table with a tissue. We have the little blue bonnet goose. We have sadness. And we have this Sense of Self lamp. So we have items layered throughout our entire snap. The layers you want to consider are, I think you probably couldn't see what I was zooming on because I was covering it. Yeah, here we go. Pixie dust, V8 item, joy, Sense of Self lamp. You want to make sure your snap has the following layers: foreground, midground, and background. That doesn't mean your snap needs to go back very far. So even a shallow snap like this, it still has all those elements. So in the foreground, right at the front of the scene, we have party hats. Because this was pattern party. Also in the foreground, we have the avatar. In the midground, we have Minnie, this carpet, this wheelbarrow, this rainbow, these confetti machines, and then pretty much the same thing over here except Tigger instead of Minnie. And for our background, we have our magnolia trees. We have some lights to seal it off, make a nice little silhouette around the avatar. We have the Cheshire Cat. We have another rainbow. We have balloons. So foreground, midground, and background. In this snap, you have no foreground and no midground. You just have a background. The only thing in your foreground at all is you and Stitch. And then again, your pose is important. The way you present the avatar is important. It's always an opportunity to impress the voter. And if you look on our Facebook post, we had other people surfing, but they found ways to surf in the water for their scene to like really make it work. if you look at all these high-end submissions, you know, you're not going to see a lot of people surfing if they're not in the water. They're going to strike a pose, have their hair blowing in the wind, have some villagers around. But also, again, foreground. Notice how they have the ferns here. They have the bushes here. They have the pixie dust. Then we go back into the midground. They have this table set. They have this hay house. They have these palm trees. And in the background, they have more trees, and they have Ariel's castle. They have a rainbow, and they have the aurora. So they have all of these layers. If you only make a background, how are you going to compete with photos like this? Because you have to, if you want to do well in Dreamsnaps. You have to compete with them. Now, if you're not worried about your results, if you're not worried about what kind of rank you get, what kind of moonstones you get, then what you're doing is just fine. But if you want to break out of 600, 900, 1200, if you want to get into the 1500 to 4000, that's the top 20%. So you got to put in that top 20% effort. Again, this does not mean you have to spend hours and hours and hours making your snap. It really doesn't. So this one took me 25 minutes to make. And it got ranked 114 or 112, I can't remember. But it took me 25 minutes. So on weeks where you don't have a lot of time, you can still have a foreground, a midground, and a background. You just build them closer to the camera. And you still make sure you fill out the whole photo. Dreamsnaps, at its core, it's a photo challenge. If you want to do well, you have to make the best photo that you can. And I believe you could have made a much better photo than this. I do believe that. If you go in your landscaping menu, there's so many good beech trees and so many good things to use. And then in your furniture menu under foliage, you have all these glowing Moana items from the Scrooge shop. There's all these good things to use. And even if you're a brand new player, just playing up the things in the landscaping menu that the game comes with can allow you to make something much better. So where I would focus right now if I were you, where I would put my primary focus, is figuring out that composition. I would say the biggest thing you need to work on for right now is getting those layers out. Don't try to never leave too much of your photo empty, because it's very hard to impress voters that way. A lot of people that tend to spend more time voting are people that tend to really enjoy Dreamsnaps, and if they really enjoy Dreamsnaps, they're probably putting a lot of time and effort into theirs. So winning those votes is going to be important. And the best way to win those votes is to put that time and effort into your builds. So again, you know, focus for now on building out your foreground, having some great items at the base of your shot, then work on building out your midground. And the background here is nice. It's a pretty background, right? Like the house is fun. You got a little truck. You got a little hammock in the trees. You got a little lifeguard stand. So it's a good background. But if you had also built a foreground and a midground, this likely would have done much better. Miss Box says I didn't get one single shiny from the pyrite nodes. Not a single one. So I took them all. Yeah, I got 3 in a row. I've never not gotten a single one, though. I wonder if they changed it. Oh, yeah, Timberland. You might have put your snap somewhere where it doesn't get reviewed. So, real quick, Timberland. If you go to the How to Get Reviews channel, it'll tell you exactly what you need to do to get a review. You probably put your snap in the Seeking Advice channel. This is for community advice. It's for just, you know, anybody that's watching that, you know, wants to give you some food for thought. everyone's welcome to participate here. But for the primary reviews and secondary reviews, like the ones I do on stream, these channels can only be seen by Twitch supporters and YouTube channel members. Now, I used to review everybody's snap. I used to do followers and supporters, but I can't. Like, as one person, it became impossible. There was no way I would ever be able to get through them all, just because the whole time I was live, more and more submissions kept coming in, and basically I would have to stream 24/7, and I still wouldn't be able to do them all. So I had to make the tough choice of saying, well, if I can't do all the reviews for everybody, I need to focus on the people that make the content possible. And you don't have to submit for a review to gain, to have benefit from watching at least, Actually, near the beginning of the stream, we had a friend come in that said they don't participate in the reviews, but they applied the advice that I was giving others, and they got ranked 270 or something like that. So, you never have to watch the reviews. You can or participate. You can always watch and gain a lot of really good insight from that too. Dee-da-da, thank you for the 31. Much appreciated. Very close to the goal now. I think we're at 38.01 here. Also, shout out to Stony Eyes. I know they went to bed, but thank you again for the big 200. Dekai, thank you for the big 400. Beagle Mama, thank you for the big 500. Cambria, thank you for the big 100. And Bell, thank you for the big 200. Give me 1 second here. Yo, hey, Personal. Thank you for joining, my friend. Thank you for joining. Welcome to the inner circle. Thank you, my friend. And if you need any help, Personal, with, if you want to participate in the reviews, if you need any help, just let us know. We use Discord for this. So what you'll want to do is link, now that you're a YouTube member, just link your Discord with your YouTube. That way my server will know you're a supporter, and you can access these channels if you would like. And you have until 3 p.m. on Monday to upload for review. We've already got several people. We're going to start doing reviews tomorrow. We usually start doing reviews on Friday just because we have so many. We can't get them all done on Monday. So we're going to do a few of these tomorrow. We got some really good-looking submissions here, too. Very cool. Very cool. Yo, Alex, thank you, my friend. Alex with a $4 donut as well. Thank you. Oh, Timberlson and I posted in the Dreamsnap sharing and result channel. Gotcha. I really understand that you can't review all the Dreamsnaps. The Geppetto rank 2 guy, by the way. Oh, very cool. Yeah, I remember seeing that. I've got rank 2 a couple times myself. Yeah, that Geppetto snap was really good. I love that snap. It was beautiful. I know exactly which one you're talking about. A very nice snap. Alex, thank you for the $4 dono. Very kind. Yeah, I got rank 2 on... where is it? Oh, and we finished our goal for the day. Let's go! Thank you, Alex. Thank you. 42.01 on the board. We had a slightly smaller goal today because I was really late going live, unfortunately. 183. That was goal number 183. Hooray! All right. Never got rank 1, though, which I'm actually kind of okay with. I kind of like the fact that I've got rank 2 a couple of times and never got rank 1, because I still have a new record to set. So, like, I'm going to keep trying. But, it's so unpredictable when it comes to the top 5. Like, you really never know what to expect. So I got rank 2 for Topsy-Turvy Tea Party. This one was pretty fun. It was an Alice in Wonderland theme. I really like the tea party setup we did with, like, all the biscuits and cookies. And I had 2 of these teapots, which is pretty funny because I think they made it to where you couldn't get 2 anymore because one was an event, and then for a little while they showed up in the screwed shop, but they weren't supposed to, so they took them out. But I bought one before they took it out, so I actually got 2 of them, which is, I don't know if they've changed that, but yeah, I had 2 of those. And we had some nice confetti, some nice little fireworks, and we had the other rank 2 was on Take a Hike. This was before the meta of us all getting close with the camera. It was also before we had camera sliders. But yeah, I took what I thought was a little bit of a risk with this one because everybody was doing like traditional jungles and traditional hiking trails. And I was like, I'm going to make a really magical forest. I'm going to have a lot of color diversity. I'm going to play up a lot of bright, fun colors. And I'm going to use the lagoon for that waterfall. And I thought it was risky because everybody was doing more traditional forest. So I was like, I told my chat, I was like, I might not even get 4K. I don't know what to expect. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if I got 2,500. And then I opened my mailbox and it gets rank 2. And I was like, okay. All right. Well, there you go, you know. You never know. You never know, dude. You never know. Most of the time I get 4K, but sometimes it's less. Still 1.5K at least, so can't complain. I was really lucky with that rank. Well, it was a beautiful snap, you know. I would say sometimes, you know, what we see in the top 3 is a lot of luck, but I don't think that was the case for your Geppetto snap. You know, that was a really well-made snap. I do think when it comes to getting in the top 5, it always takes a little bit of luck and skill, like a little bit of both. But usually the snaps there deserve to be there. And yours was one of those cases that definitely deserved to be there. I think, you know, on City by Moonlight, the rank 1 for City by Moonlight was so gorgeous, so well composed. Definitely deserved to be there. But some weeks it's kind of random. Like for the Star Wars challenge, I bring that one up a lot. It's pretty funny. We had the what was it called? Yeah, this was the rank 2 for Coziness Beyond the Stars. Rank 2. So sometimes it's a lot of luck. And I'm not saying this is a horrible snap. They did the theme. And they got some good light outside their windows. You know, we can see the sun over here. That's nice. But, you know, a little bit of a stretch. A little bit of a stretch. But it all comes down to what you pop up against. So this photo clearly popped up against a lot of shots it could beat. So here it is. Which means it popped up against stuff that wasn't this good. Whereas your Geppetto snap, you know, I think that just won on merit. There weren't too many snaps that were better than that, you know. It was a very good snap. I got 4K for a snap similar to this one from Star Wars. I was so confused, says Dovey Bird. Well, you know, it's all about the 1v1s, Dovey Bird. Some weeks, that's going to work out in your favor if you're popping up against random selfies and random quest photos. That's why I tell people, even if you don't have a lot of time, you can throw something together that does the theme, and you never know. You might land in rank 2. You just don't know. You don't know what's going to happen because you never know what those 1v1s are going to be like. It's really unpredictable. Now, with the new changes, like now that they got rid of the tag system, it does seem like as photos get more votes, they're more likely to pop up against other photos that get more votes. But even photos that are getting votes might not be great because people just pick the best of the 2. So you might still get matched up against kind of random shots. So still an element of unpredictability, which is why the advice I give people, it's never about here's how to get in the top 5, here's how to get in the top 100, because I can't tell you that. Nobody can. You know, we have players here that have been in the top 5, like Weasley or Beyblade, myself, and there's actually many others that have been in the top 5 here. But we never know when we're going to land there because it's very unpredictable. And that's why I tell people never worry about the rank beside your results. You know, because I've had some people get 4K, and they were like, it was my best Dreamsnap ever. I thought it would be top 100, and it ended up at rank 5,000. I still got 4K, but I'm kind of disappointed. And to that I say, don't be. Because you have no control once voting starts. You don't know what kind of voters you're going to get. Could be kids, that just like puppies, and there's a puppy in one photo. What are you going to do there? You could pop up against the best stuff out there. And since Dreamsnaps have this 1v1 style, and the human element behind voting is unpredictable, it's very hard to guess where a snap is going to land. Now, you can't really control exactly where you land, but you do have a good bit of control on the range. So if you're good at Dreamsnaps, 99% of the time, and I mean good, 90% of the time, you're going to pop up in 1,500 or higher. Most of the times better than that. Unless it's a freak thing, like what happened to Ronald this week, where Ronald Duck got 600 moonstones. I've never seen a snap that good to get 600 before. I honestly think it was end of update. And keep in mind, at the end of the update, there's less submissions, there's less voters. It's pretty rough. The end of the update is always the roughest week for Dreamsnaps. Always has been. I didn't know how I was going to do, but I was wondering, like, maybe not having water would be bad, but it did fine. Yeah, I did a Hercules themed Dreamsnap once that wasn't so fully decorated, still had a full effect. Gabrielle said, very unpredictable. Indeed. I wonder how voting looks now with the skip feature. Kind of anxious for next week's. Honestly, I am really liking the skip feature. I used it a lot yesterday. So when you skip a snap, when I vote in Dreamsnaps, I love to seek out really good snaps to vote on. And that doesn't mean these snaps don't deserve a vote. They're still going to get votes because there's a lot of selfie submitters and quest photo submitters. They don't put any time into their own snaps. They don't really care about snaps. They just want the moonstones. So they're going to come in here to get their 50 moonstones, and they're not going to skip a single time. They're just going to pick whichever's best of the two, whichever they like more, and then they're going to leave. So for me, and that's why you see a lot of fluctuation as well. Whenever I vote, I really like to go in and just skip and find really good snaps to vote for, like things I'm like, wow, that's impressive. Like that person did a great job. And FYI, by no means am I telling you to do this, okay? I want to be very clear. Everyone watching this has the right to vote however they want. Even if you want to pick the photo you like the least, for whatever reason, I don't know why you'd want to do that, but I couldn't tell you no. Your choice. Your vote, your choice. Now, for me, I really like the unlimited skips. I think it's going to give players that put a lot of thought into their snap more accurate results. Maybe. We'll see. I'm not too sure. It really depends on how people respond to this feature, to be honest. But if we go back, if we look at, let's say, we look at Ronald Duck's submission, the one that got 600 moonstones, I could see it getting 1,500, I think that's, I would be like, well, you had a rough week, it is what it is. But 600 for what Ronald did, I've been doing Dreamsnap since the very first challenge, and I've never seen that happen. I've never seen a Dreamsnap with this much detail and this much effort get below 900. Well, back when we had the tag system, I did, because a lot of people didn't understand the tag system and they got punished. But ever since the tag system left, or wasn't involved in rank and score, I haven't seen this happen. So I was taken aback when I saw this, They're doing everything right. Now, it could be more competitive, They could have used a bit more color. There were definitely more fun outfits out there. So I could see it getting 1,500. but 600 puts it in like the bottom 40%. And if you vote, you know that this is better than you know, a lot of what you see out there. So unless they got really unlucky with their 1v1s and popped up against just the best of the best over and over and over, that could be what happened. Or there just weren't enough voters, and people that were voting, they got their 50 moonstones and they left, and this just didn't show up enough, you know. That's the tricky thing with the end of an update. There's less people voting, there's less people submitting, and if you have more submissions than you do voters, or if a lot of people that submitted don't even bother voting, well, how is everyone's Dreamsnap going to get a fair shot? So since things like this do happen, that's why I like to skip a lot personally. I just like to seek out the people that put in like ample time and effort and have a really fun build, and from my perspective, and give them a vote. Again, I'm not saying anybody else has to vote that way, but I do really like the unlimited skip feature. And it's not going to hurt anybody that you're not skipping, or that you're skipping. Gameloft has already said that performance is determined by the votes you receive. There aren't any negative marks in Dreamsnaps, because at any point, you're going to quit voting and you're going to back out. So those two photos that I just backed out on, they're not going to be punished because I didn't vote for them, right? So there's no downside to like cycling through. And I do believe that the skip thing, this new skip feature, there's a lot of players I know that have hated voting because they're like, all I see is selfies, all I see are random quest photos, voting's no fun because I can't find anything cool. Those players are now going to just be able to press skip until they do find something cool. And also, this is definitely not forced at Book Nook. This is crafted with care. I swear Gameloft recycles old submissions. I swear they do. I swear they do. I'm pretty sure they do. I can't swear it, but I have a suspicion. But, you know, neither one of these are... Well, this one has books. But this one's just a selfie with a bed, you know? So there's a lot of snaps like that out there. And even if I see a snap that does the theme, you know, like... I want to support the players as a voter and as somebody that loves Dreamsnaps. I want to seek out and support the players that are putting a lot of thought into their snap. You know, some people get mad about that. Some people see me skipping and they're like, why are you doing that? Why are you skipping all these submissions? You know, they did the theme, give them a vote. But I don't have to do that. You know, it's my right as a voter. I'm looking for particular things. And that's why I think that, you know, this new skip feature, I think it's probably going to be a net positive for people that put a lot of time, effort, and thought. Not a lot of time necessarily, because you can make a good snap in 20 minutes. But a lot of thought into how they produce their snaps. And it's also going to reward players that go out of their way to look at results, to learn what voters like. A lot of people forget that that's a big part of Dreamsnaps. It's not just about making a photo that you think it's good, because it's not up to you whether it does good. It's up to the voters. For example, you know, another thing people vote on is office. Let's say I was running to be mayor of a city. Well, let's say I want free cookies for me, but everybody else wants free donuts for them. If I run my campaign on free cookies for me, how am I going to get votes? You have to understand your voter. You have to know your voters. Now, everybody's a little bit different, of course, but if you look at the results each week, which is what I've done over the years, if you look at the results that come in each week, you'll see what the voters like, because we see a lot of the same things every week by week by week. So if we go into these results here, you know, rank 87, beautiful light, very strong light, saturated colors, good avatar presence, good villager presence. Voters love this. This photo got 4K. Great lighting. Beautiful colors. Good villager presence. Good avatar presence. Ashley was able to pull off 4K with this. Very thoughtful pose. Hair blowing in the wind. She canceled the dragon pose to get that effect. We got some beautiful lush green. Miss Spot got 4K for this. Very magical setup. We got a lot of beautiful blue bubbles. We got some pixie dust. We got some coral. And look at that vibrant color. Photos like this stand out in the voting phase, and voters are drawn to them. They're very likely to vote for this type of photo. And we see that week after week after week after week. And if we go into my Dreamsnap library here, you'll see that pretty much all of my snaps have a high level of lighting and a high level of saturation, because I know it draws votes because I've seen it. I look at the results every week. And I've done that since the very first challenge. And it's helped me really understand the mind of the average voter and like what they're drawn to. Now, that doesn't mean every single week you just got to do what everybody else wants. If you want to take a risk and do what you want to do, even if it might not be what the voters want, that's totally fine. It's a game and you should have fun with it. But if you do make that choice, just don't be too upset if you don't get 4K, you know? We'll get to it in a second, guys. I'll check out Scuttles in just a moment. But yeah, the lighting is going to be very important. And the colors, of course. And again, you don't have to have these vivid colors. There's plenty of snaps that get 4K without them if they're well crafted. But voters are drawn to these. Michaela said, I wonder if unlimited skips would push people to put in more effort. Well, unlimited skips doesn't even need to do that. If people want to get 4K, if you want to get good results even before unlimited skips were a thing, that's something you should be considering, you know? And again, effort doesn't always mean you got to put in a ton of time. So the reason I haven't looked at Scuttles yet is because I was waiting on them to DM it to me. So it's still not there, guys. I got LOTRs. I got Queens. But when I go over the snaps, I look at them through Discord DM. Well, I have a lot of old messages. They got to DM it to me while I'm live. I need a new notification. Just send another DM and I'll get a noti and I'll open it right up. Yeah, every stream where we look at these. Scuttle, can you just send another... will you just open Discord and just send it so I get a noti so I can just open it there? That's how I always do these. I get a noti and I just open the noti. It's a lot easier than having to look through all my DMs. Because I get a very silly amount of DMs. A lot of them are spam. Or just people saying hello. But, yeah, it's easy for me to just open the noti. This one's pretty good. Good lighting. Fun colors. Oh, that deserves a vote. That's really pretty. That's a good one. I just got it. Yeah, when you send me a message, it moves you right to the top of my message list. Those are the ones I look at during the stream. What did you get for this? 1,500? All good, all good. No, Kirsty, you can send me one too. If you got less than 4,000 and you want to talk about what you could do to be more competitive with it, you can send me one. Yeah, it's very pretty. I mean, honestly, Scuttle, this might have just not got 4K because there just weren't enough voters, you know? Because this is just as good as a lot of the stuff we see in 4K. The foreground is very nice. And if we look at, you know, like Miss Spock Snap or Chloe Snap or Kirsty Snap, you know, they're just as good. Bethany wants to know if dragons will work for this week's snap. Bethany, check out my video. I have a full guide on this week's challenge. And there's actually an example scene with dragons in there. So, for any questions pertaining to this week's challenge, if it's a question not in my video, then I'll give you some answers on it. But for that question, I actually discussed that pretty thoroughly in the video. And even give some good examples of budget scenes you can do with dragons. But yeah, it's a very solid snap. I don't really see anything about it that the voters may not have liked, you know. It's got a good villager presence, really good color, really good lighting. You might just be in the same boat as Ronald was, you know. Ronald only got 600 for hers. And it was a solid snap. Definitely deserved more. Again, the toughest weeks for Dreamsnaps are the last week of the update. And on that last week of the update, there's oftentimes just not enough voters for all the submissions. And that could have been the case here. There's not really much you could do to make this more competitive, to be honest. The fireworks serve really well. You do have fireflies there, too. You got plenty of a beach scene. You even showed some water, and you got some glowing algae there. You got Stitch, you got Ariel, you got Eric. I mean, one thing that was really popular in a lot of snaps were rainbows, but you don't need them, you know? You got plenty of color. I don't think you needed a rainbow. But there's not really much you could have done better here. I mean, realistically, it's not... Like I said, it's not that different from what we see in 4K. We see a lot of similar poses. We see a lot of similar colors. And you even had Max in there. So yeah, just unfortunate. But you likely won't deal with that this week. Like I said, the best weeks for Dreamsnaps are the first few weeks after an update. You get way more submissions thanks to the StarPath. You get way more voters thanks to the StarPath. But the worst weeks in all of Dreamsnaps are that last week. The last week of the update. We see a lot of snaps that got what they deserved. You know, like Beyblades did really well. Courtney's did good. And there's a lot of snaps that are similar to yours, you know, with like lighting and color. And there's even, I would say, several snaps in the 4K range that aren't quite as strong as yours. Yeah, Maurice did well. But you had good lighting, you had good saturation, you had a great build. And you still had plenty of open space for the beach as well. And the foreground is really nice here. But you know, you won't always be able to justify the rank you receive. It's kind of like we see with Ronald here. You know, like I said, there's ways I think this snap could improve. I think saturation could be better. I think outfit could potentially be better. But, you know, 1500 would be where I would expect this to land if it didn't get 4K. But 600 is, you know, kind of a red flag. I think that kind of points out that people just weren't too into voting. And I think that's also reflected by the fact that less people submitted than normal. Usually we get, you know, way more submissions in a Dreamsnap challenge to where the cutoff for 4K is around 7,500. So the fact that the cutoff was below that this time, in fact, below 7,000, like people that got ranked 6,800 didn't get 4K, tells you there were even less submissions than normal. So if people weren't interested in submitting, I would be willing to bet people weren't interested in voting as much either. And if you have a week where there's way more submissions than there are voters, sometimes not everybody's going to get a fair shake. Which is why I feel like Game Loft should definitely do something to incentivize voting. It's also why I really like the unlimited skip feature, because I think it's going to work for people like you, Scuttle, that put time and effort and thought into their snaps. Because if someone's just skipping a bunch of snaps, they're very likely to stop and vote for this. But with the way the system was set up before, you know, not really. Yeah, I don't really see anything you could do better to grow on that one, to be honest. I think it's just, you got the short end of the stick this week. I mean, I will say that with a lot of snaps, one thing that appears to be very popular with... Let me go back to Facebook real quick. And I don't really know. I can't really say. This is more like a theory. But I do see in a vast majority of snaps, unless the challenge specifies otherwise for some reason, natural hair colors, like your blondes, your browns, black, red, these natural hair colors tend to be a bit more appealing for most people. Like almost all of these photos we're looking at. Then again, you know, I mean, Beyblade has pink and purple hair, like you. They got 682. But I mean, you had water in it, so you know it's not that people didn't think you had water or something. It was magical. You had good lighting. And you had good composition. I usually stick towards very natural hair colors myself, unless it's a... I mean, the challenge did say to... we were supposed to play up the hair, which was, you know, probably why you colored it. But that's the only thing I see in common with the two of your two snaps between Uncle Rod and yours, is that you both have like some, you know, you don't have as natural hair colors. You got like highlights or some fun colors, whereas like a lot of people are just playing up like blonde and brown. But again, I don't really have enough data to know if that matters or not. I can just see that most players look like they gravitate towards those natural colors. But we saw with Beyblades, theirs did fine. And this one has blue as well. They got Ring 2000. Another thing I would consider... potentially, but I honestly think you just didn't get enough voters. I think that's, you know, I think some snaps just, I think there were more snaps than there were votes to go around in some ways. But another thing I would consider for a beach day is long sleeves and pants. I don't think they might not have been the best choice. I see why, you know, how they could play with the colors here. But another thing we see with a lot of the snaps is, you know, they're rocking, you know, sleeveless shirts or, you know, the little tops, skirts. You know, you see a lot of really beachy outfits that look like a summer day fit. And it could be possible that, you know, people were potentially judgmental of the outfit. I think that's one thing that could probably be a little better. Because like I said, you see a lot of tank tops or like tube tops and a lot of short shorts or skirts. You see a lot of skin, you know. A lot of very beachy outfits. And some of the snaps that strayed away from that were short of 4K. Like this one got 25. Dree with this one got rank 801. You know, very beachy fit. And since the challenge did ask us to dress in something comfortable, I think some of these outfits definitely feel more comfortable for the beach, if that makes sense. Now, whether or not, you know, that had an impact, we don't really know. You know, hard to say. But, like, this one has the same shirt you had, and they got around rank 2000. They do have the beachy skirt. But we do see a lot of fits with a lot of, you know, exposed skin. Good for beach days. But again, you know, Ronald had that too. And they got rank 600. Or they got 600 moonstones. So, you know, what do you do? Hard to say. But yeah, I really don't think there was much else you could have done. I mean, potentially outfit, but there's no way to really know that. Yeah, Gabrielle, I like to do that too. I usually don't do much with saturation when I have a lot of sunset lighting, but I did boost the saturation here to give myself more of a sun-kissed look as well. And I did wear something that was very beachy. But there were a lot of good beachy options, you know. And Scuttle's outfit was beachy, you know, it was a Little Mermaid-themed outfit. Odds are, though, it was just that end of the update luck. You know, not enough voters to go around. That's the most likely situation for you there. But yeah, I don't really see anywhere. I don't really see any massive areas for improvement here. It was a solid snap. This week's going to be a lot easier. In fact, the week of an update is typically the easiest weeks to get 4K. Because we'll have way more submissions. And even if you rank at like 8,000, you'll probably still get Moonstone. You'll probably still get 4K. Even if you're all the way down at rank 8,000, because there's just going to be way more submissions than normal. People come back to the game whenever there's a new update, people that weren't playing before. And the STARPATH makes people that usually would not submit a snap actually go out of their way, even if it's just a selfie. And because of that, you see way more selfie submissions. You see way more quest photo submissions. You'll see a lot of random submissions out there. And on top of that, the StarPath is going to incentivize people to vote. And we have the unlimited skip feature, which means there will be a lot of players out there that are just cycling through snaps looking for things that are really cool to vote for. So if you're somebody that, you know, like you, Scuttle, that puts a lot of time and effort into your snaps and makes them very beautiful, I think the unlimited skip feature is going to work out in your favor. Val said, thanks for my first 4K semi purely because of your videos and advice. Well, I wouldn't say purely, you know, like you're the one that put it together. You're the one that seeked out, you know, additional tips and advice, and you're the one that got 4K. I would say 95% of the credit goes to you. I'll take 5%, you know, a little 5% off the top. But no, I can't. I wouldn't say purely because of me, you know. Like, you did that. That was your snap. Alrighty, you guys. Well, with that, we are at the end of the stream today. So only 2.5 hours. Didn't stream, you know. That's why we had a smaller goal. Usually I stream for 3, but I went live really late. That said, if you haven't seen the new video, I do have a guide out for this week's challenge, and there's some pretty fun stuff in there. One thing I think that's going to be really good to use this week would be horses. You don't have to use them. But if you're doing a fairy build, imagine a horse with the fairy wings. That is if you have Wish Blossom. If you don't worry about it. You absolutely don't have to have them, but I think they're going to be super fun to use. If you're doing a, you know, a build with Phil and Hercules, having Pegasus there, like, you know, he's got such a stage presence. He's so large. You don't have to do the horse poses, but they can be really fun. And for anything else, like if you're really stuck on what kind of mythical creature to use, we can literally use horses to make unicorns. Imagine a snap with like 4 unicorns, you know, like that would be cool. There's so many cool ways to approach this challenge. And we cover a good bit of it in the video. So if you haven't seen my guide for this challenge yet, definitely check it out, because even if you've already done your snap, you might find something in there and you're like, oh, that's cool. I'm going to add that to my scene. You know, it's never too late to make some additions. Lunaris, I covered that in the video as well. When I was talking about outfit options for Greek-inspired builds. And yeah, we've been answering questions about the new challenge throughout the day. It's a unicorn horn. It's a head attachment. You can't put it on Pegasus or some of the other horses. So, if I take him here, and we customize him, we can just take off the fairy wings, and you can give him a unicorn horn. You can make him white. You can give him, like, you know, purple and teal mane. Give him cool colors. But the horn, the unicorn horn, is on headgear, and it's called the unicorn bridle. Unicorn bridle. Now, if you do decide to make a Medusa theme, I think there are ways to make it more competitive. So let's read what the challenge says. The title of the challenge is called Legendary Moments. So, you know, the best way to approach that competitively is to make sure that your photo feels like some kind of legendary moment, like something legendary happening. That's why, like, riding on Pegasus can be so good, or training with Phil can be so good, or strolling through a magical fairy wonderland with Tinkerbell can be so good. The challenge also says to create a world of wonder with fantastical characters. So, using characters is also going to be important this week. So if you do a Medusa build, you know, finding clever ways to include characters, I think is a good idea. It also says satyr, fairy, or even aliens. And then it says dress up and play with mythical companions and creatures. So the challenge is asking us not just to create, it's not just a mythical challenge. It's telling us very specific things to do. So, create a world of wonder with fantastical characters, and dress up and play with mythical companions and creatures. Now, you don't have to play with them, you know, but just having some mythical creatures. For me, you know, I'll be more inclined to vote for a snap if it has mythical companions and creatures included, considering that's part of the theme. So, you know, as discussed in the video today, I do think, you know, the Medusa stuff could be really cool. And, you know, that's going to work. Medusa is a legend. Does go back to the ancient world. But, you know, the challenge is asking for more than that. It wants us to create a world of wonder with fantastical characters. And it wants us to utilize mythical companions and creatures. So, as long as it has those elements, I think it's going to be a good snap, you know. And even without those elements, you can still get 4K depending on what you pop up on, you know, pop up against. But I think there's going to be some, and this will be an easier challenge to get 4K on, to be fair. So even if you don't have those elements, you'll probably be okay. The easiest challenges are typically the ones right at the beginning of the update. So even if you don't have mythical creatures or companions, but you know me, whenever I approach a Dreamsnap challenge, one of the reasons I've been able to, you know, have great performance throughout Dreamsnaps is I always go out of my way to highlight every aspect of what the challenge has stated to the best of my ability. You know, so if the challenge tells me to use mythical companions, I'm going to have mythical companions. Because you never know what kind of voters you're going to get. You know, you might have voters looking for those things. You might not, so it might not matter. But I like to play it safe when it comes to that. Make sure I do have those. And I'll get you guys the link. Well, a split shot's not necessarily going to be off theme, Miss Spock. It's all about how you... It's all about how you set it up, you know? Like, what you do. You know, again, the main thing you want to do is capture some legendary moments. And if you're using mythological creatures... and also mythological characters, or if you style your avatar to be a mythological character... it's going to make it even stronger. Yeah, I do think this pose will work well for small villagers. It's a cute pose. All right, let me grab the link to today's video. Oh, did I never share the video link in Discord? I guess I didn't. I was going to pull it from there. All right, here's the link to the video. If you haven't seen it yet, it'll dive deep into the concept of the theme, give some good example ideas. There's options there for budget players as well. Oh yeah, and keep in mind the villager toggle does not work right in Mythopia. I'm probably not going to build my scene in Mythopia because of that, because I really want to use that new toggle. There's ways to make it work, but it's just kind of annoying. So I'll probably build my scene on a floating island anyway. Because, I mean, if this was a floating island, you wouldn't even be able to tell, because we've paved everything and we have, like, plenty of height. The only thing we'll lose is the Mount Olympus in the back. I thought I did. I mean, I did make a post earlier about it. I made a post about Facebook, and I mentioned the video. I'm going to put it there, too. Yeah, I could have sworn I made a post about it once I got it out there. But it's not here, which is weird. But you know the drill. If you want the maximum value out of your reviews, for those of you that participate in the Dreamsnap reviews, we'll be starting the reviews tomorrow. But if you want the maximum benefit from the reviews, you know, if you check out the video, it'll already be covering a lot of things about the challenge and some fun things to use. So you'll kind of go into the review knowing, you know, some great things I'll be likely to recommend if you don't have them. And that can be super helpful, because then you can get more value out of your review, because we can focus on other things. So yeah, video's there. It's in the Discord. It's in the chat. You can check it out. Rinse it. I just watched it. Nice, nice. Alrighty, y'all. Yeah, I think I'll share it on Facebook today, too, once I get off. All right. I'm going to go get some rest. I'm so tired, dude. I streamed so long yesterday for the update. And then, yeah, today I spent pretty much all day working on the video. And then as soon as I was done, we went live. I'm tired. I think I'm just going to go straight to bed. Well, I'll probably take a shower first, because it gets hot in my studio. But yeah, I'm going to hop off. I'm going to get some rest. And we will kick off our Snap reviews tomorrow. We've already got a few in the Discord. So if you do get your Snap done tonight, you know, we might be able to get you in for a review tomorrow. Just depends. You know, can't guarantee it, because we don't know how many snaps we'll get to. But yeah, we'll start getting them done tomorrow. All right, y'all, as always, stay safe, stay awesome, and stay healthy. I will catch you on the next one. Thanks for being here, and good luck on your submissions. Have a wonderful evening, and thank you again for 183 goals in a row. Another beautiful new record. That, and we got a couple of new members of the supporter family today, so that's fun. That's fun. I think we got a new Twitch supporter and a new YouTube channel member, so one on each platform. Hurrah! Very nice.